My name is Becky Monroe, and I'm the director of the Divided Community Project, and that includes the Bridge Initiative. And we are based at the Moritz College of Law at Ohio State University.
I'm Bill Johnson, who I was asked to be a mediator on this project, and I am from Rochester, New York, where I was a former mayor for 3 terms.
And the Bridge Initiative it was created out of the recognition that local community leaders as well as government officials were dealing with increasing levels of tension, and respects the fact that that tension often is a positive and good force, but that it can be useful sometimes to have people coming in from the outside to offer a process. One of the things we talk about with the Bridge Initiative is that we bring in people like Mayor Johnson who have experience in either leading local government. We're really fortunate with Mayor Johnson that he also has led the Urban League in Rochester, so has tremendous experience from the nonprofit sector as well. And we bring in leaders to help local leaders develop a process so that they can start to identify what their priorities are in terms of concerns and issues, and then move to action. One of the things that we think is really important to emphasize is that we are usually only going into cities where there are engaged people, and that's a positive thing. We often talk about the fact that if there is a city where there's not tension, where there aren't protests, that's a city that you might be more concerned about. Because this protest and tension is actually a really productive and a strong sense that you have an engaged citizenry. And that is certainly true here in Bloomington. And so it's really been a privilege to come and work with local leaders and listen to them and sort of help to understand they already have the answers. And so part of our goal here is to provide a process through which those ideas and those answers can move to action. In August, we received a call from the mayor, and Mayor Hamilton called, and it was in the midst of I think, the time when the market was closed, when the farmer's market was closed. And I think the reason he called was, again, he talked about the fact that he was really proud of the city where people were protesting, where people were concerned about issues. He was also really proud of the market, and he recognized the importance of the market to the vendors and to farmers who saw this as their livelihood. He also recognized the importance of the issues that were coming up through the farmers market. And one of the things that led us to come and to get involved was this genuine respect for protest, this genuine respect for the fact that people were trying to make their city better, and a sense that sometimes people coming in from the outside can offer a process where the wisdom that resides in the community to address these issues can come forward and can move towards action. So that was sort of how we got involved. I think there was this recognition that concerns around white nationalism, white supremacy, were not going to be resolved at the farmers market, and they deserved a separate process unto themselves. And so that's why we came in and had the opportunity to bring in someone like Mayor Johnson to listen and to understand how we can help the community develop a process that they lead to address these issues.
Well, it actually was in 3 phases. First, I spent a day, the initial day, meeting with the mayor and his top staff to understand the city's perspective and some of the expected outcomes from this activity. And then I came back on 2 separate occasions to talk with private citizens in their various roles in the community. Not all of them were interacting with the market controversy. Some of them, in fact, had nothing to do with the market controversy. But one of the issues that had come out during some hearings that the city had already conducted was a sense, and it was repeated of several times, that Bloomington was not a city that was welcoming for racial minorities or marginalized people. And that extended to the farmers market. So I was asked to really come back and talk to people about that. So I talked to 35 people on 2 separate trips from a broad cross-section of the community, some of whom were recommended by the city, And others were recommended by the people that I spoke to. I asked them that I needed to speak to some unaffiliated people, some younger people. And so I was rather taken aback by the thoughtfulness that these people brought into these discussions. When our presence became public knowledge, and a story was written in the daily newspaper, we afforded an opportunity for other residents to express their concerns. So a survey was set up, and we got 40 people to respond who responded to it, who probably would have been a lot more, except that it didn't stay up any more than a weekend. There was no way to, and no reason to open this up to hundreds and hundreds of people when I knew that the process that I was using would not allow any interaction with those people. But we did get some very thoughtful comments, and I identified 7 people from that group that I spent a whole day talking to by phone. So I feel as though I've gotten some significant feedback from people, some thoughtful people, and they also expressed some of their own personal concerns, fear around the disorder that exists at the market. Some people just really, and there was a sense of loss that this wonderful place that has existed in this town for over 45 years is somehow going to be threatened by this controversy that really evolves around just one individual. And I do think that with the input that we have been able to provide, that the city is going to go forward in a way that may not please everybody, but will, I think, show a resolute dispensation of this particular issue.
And so we released this report, and again, it was based on the input of community leaders and the opportunity that Mayor Johnson had to talk to many people in Bloomington. And the goal of releasing this report was, it was not to directly address the farmers market issue, but rather to respect the fact that the issues that were coming up at the farmers market were deeper issues that warranted a direct approach to address them. And that we highlight these issues in part because, again, at the Bridge Initiative, we recognize that strong communities and resilient communities are ones that directly confront very hard truths. And so we highlight those truths in this document, not to suggest that these are issues that people can't do something about, but to recognize that, again, the wisdom to address these issues does reside in the community, and we saw that. We saw that when people were willing to address these hard truths. We're talking about issues that are more systemic, that have been around for some time, and we're also, though, willing to sort of approach it with a sense of, but we can do something about it. And I think in talking to Mayor Johnson, that was one of the strongest things that came out of his summaries was people are willing to address some really hard issues around white nationalism, white supremacy, the way that ongoing issues affect this community. But they were willing to do so in a way that said, I have some agency in here and I can do something about it. So I think that was that's our goal with this report. The other thing I think is really critical to mention is that with respect to this report, we had the opportunity to talk to many people, but as Mayor Johnson said, we couldn't talk to everyone whose voice needed to be heard. So our recommendations with respect to a process going forward are calling for more people to get involved. People who are the heads of organizations, as well as people who may be unaffiliated with any organization, but care deeply about their community, have been directly impacted by some of the issues that we highlight. And so we're calling on all of these people to stay involved and to get involved. And so the process that's set forward is meant to be as inclusive as possible. And we also just want to convey how much respect we have for the community leaders we talked to, for the individuals who sort of were willing to speak up, talk about these very hard and painful issues, but we're also willing to say, and we will take some action.
Yeah, there's not much I can add to what Becky just said, but I think that what I'm concerned about, and what I think we've addressed in this report, is that people who spoke with me at great length and with great feeling might be looking for particular responses in this report, particularly around how to resolve the market controversy. Well, I think it's highly inappropriate for me or anyone else who only spends a few hours in this community to come in and claim that I have any kind of wisdom to suggest that there are a lot of people, and I've been tracking this when I don't come to Bloomington. I followed the news out of Bloomington. I talk to people in Bloomington. And the thing that I am so deeply impressed with are the number of people who are really diligently working to try to resolve this, including the mayor and his staff. And so that answer has to come from here, not from some outside third party. What the outside third party has done is to, as mediators are trained to do, is to listen very carefully to what people are saying, and in some instances what they aren't saying, and to elucidate that, to get them to really address that issue. And in that process, we found that there were some very critical issues that weren't being addressed, not deliberately, but just because people may not have even felt comfortable raising them. They may be raising them with me. They felt safe enough to raise them with me for the first time. And my promise to them was I need to find a way to convey that information without putting them in great harm, because I think some people are afraid that, you know, bad things could happen to them, and they don't want to expose themselves. And so I think that when they read the report, they will see that we have actually found information that is extremely valuable, and that the city and the city leaders are committed to not just taking this. I can't tell you the number of times in my life that I've sat on commissions and advisory committees where we have been told, now you go look for the truth and you come tell us. And then when we bring it back to them, they say thank you, and they put it on a shelf, or they throw it in the trash can, and nothing more is ever heard of it. And I told people that I have had that experience too often in my life that I'm not going to do that to somebody else. So I had the assurance when I agreed to do this that it was going to be worthwhile, that it was, and you know, there are no great secrets that come out in this report. There's nothing so unpalatable. But I think that every community I know of, and I happen to be mayor of one, and I work with others that are dealing with these things, and they just need somebody to really put it in a place where they can deal with it in a constructive way. For me, I think that you all are going to break some new ground here and take leadership in ways that other communities are just going to look at and be very, what's the word I'm looking for?
Inspired and encouraged.
Inspired,
Yeah.
and say, it can be done. So this is what I really feel about this time, and I don't think we finished. I think we still have more work to do if we want it, if we asked to do it. But I just feel that the stars are aligned in the right direction to see, you know, you pride yourself on being progressive. I think you're going to take progressive to the next level.